There's something I hear patients say all the time when they come in, and I hear it so often it actually gets to me, and it goes something like this. My doctor said it's just my age. Or maybe it was wear and tear, nothing to be done about it. And look, I get it. Appointments are short, and sometimes that explanation feels like the most efficient thing to say in a 10-minute visit. But here is the problem with that answer. It's incomplete, and in a lot of cases, it is just flat out wrong. Because here is what I see in clinic. I see people in their 40s who cannot make it down a flight of stairs without grabbing the railing and wincing. And I see patients in their 70s with x-rays that would make a medical student do a double take, and those patients are out walking every single morning, without medication, without a brace, without much fuss at all. Same structural changes on imaging. Wildly different pain experience. And if getting older explained everything, that wouldn't happen. And we all know it wouldn't happen, and yet that's still the answer a lot of people are getting sent home with. So today we are going through 5 reasons your knee actually hurts, and I am saving the most surprising one for near the end, because it is the one that genuinely trips up doctors. And once you understand it, it changes how you think about your pain completely. So if that sounds like something you need, hit subscribe, like this video, share it with anyone you know who has been dismissed with that answer. And let's get into it. Before we get into the 5 points, let's just make sure we are on the same page about what we're talking about. When we talk about knee pain in this video, we're mostly talking about osteoarthritis, OA, of the knee. Osteoarthritis is what most people mean when they say arthritis. It's the kind that's often described as the wear and tear kind. It's a condition where the cartilage, the smooth, cushiony material that covers the ends of our bones inside the joint, breaks down and thins out over time, and that causes pain and stiffness and sometimes swelling in the knee. Now, the thing I really want you to hold on to right from the start is this. Osteoarthritis used to be taught as basically a mechanical problem, like an engine that has just run too many miles, parts wearing out, nothing to be done. But that is not how we think about it anymore. And that old framing, that kind of fatalistic mechanical model, is exactly why "you're just getting older" is such an unhelpful and incomplete answer. So let's get into what is actually going on. The first thing I need you to hear is that osteoarthritis is not just mechanical breakdown. It is an inflammatory condition. Now, when most people hear the word inflammation, they immediately go to rheumatoid arthritis, or lupus, the aggressive autoimmune diseases. And OA does not usually get put in that category, and for a long time it wasn't. But that thinking is changing, and it's changing fast. What we now know is that inside an osteoarthritic knee, there is actually a whole inflammatory process running, and the lining of the joint, which we call the synovium, gets irritated and inflamed, and starts producing these chemicals called cytokines, which are basically inflammatory messenger molecules, and those cytokines then drive further cartilage breakdown and pain, and more inflammation, and it becomes this self-sustaining loop. So this is not just a joint running out of mileage. This is a joint in a state of low-grade, ongoing inflammation. And the reason that matters so much is this. If we only think about knee OA as a mechanical problem, all we can do is manage symptoms and wait until someone crosses whatever threshold their surgeon uses for a knee replacement. But if we understand the inflammatory piece, then we actually have a whole other set of tools we can work with. And those tools are things like diet changes and movement and stress management. And that is genuinely a more hopeful picture. Second point, and I want to say this carefully because it gets oversimplified constantly, and it gets used in ways that feel dismissive, is weight. Yes, carrying extra weight puts more mechanical load on the knee joint, and that does matter. That part is true. But here is the part of this conversation that most people never get. Fat tissue, and the medical term here is adipose tissue, is not just sitting up there passively taking up space. It is metabolically active, and it produces its own inflammatory signaling molecules called adipokines. And those adipokines circulate through the body and drive inflammation directly in joints, including the knee. So it's not only that extra weight means more pressure on the cartilage, it's that adipose tissue is actively contributing to the inflammatory environment inside the joint, which is a completely different mechanism. And here is the detail that really makes this click for people. We sometimes see osteoarthritis of the hands in people who carry extra weight, even though the hands are not weight-bearing joints at all. If this were purely a mechanical load issue, that would not happen. It can't happen. But it does happen, because the inflammatory piece does not care what is and isn't weight-bearing. So yes, reaching and maintaining a healthy weight is genuinely protective for your knees. That is real and worth saying. But the reason is more interesting than just offloading the joint. And understanding that means there are actually more things available to you than just the scale. Third, and this is one I feel strongly about because I see it being under-addressed constantly in clinic, is the role of the muscles around the knee, specifically the quadriceps, the big group of muscles across the front of the thigh. So let me walk you through what this cycle looks like. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Knee pain starts. Moving gets uncomfortable. So naturally, we move less. Because why would we do something that hurts? And that makes complete sense as an instinct. But when we move less, the muscles around the knee weaken. And here is what most people don't realize. Those muscles are not just for walking. They function as shock absorbers, with every single step. When they are strong, they take load off the joint and protect the cartilage. When they are weak, the joint takes the full impact instead. And that drives more pain and more breakdown. And then we move even less. And the muscles get weaker, and the whole cycle just deepens. This is why strengthening exercises and physical therapy are among the most well-supported treatments we have for knee OA. Not because building muscle reverses the structural changes that have already happened, but because it changes the mechanics of how load actually passes through the joint. And there is one more thing on this that often surprises people. Cartilage does not have a direct blood supply the way most tissues do. It gets its nutrients from the fluid inside the joint, and that fluid gets pumped in and out through movement. So a knee that is not moving is a knee that is not getting fed properly. Rest has a place. I am not saying to push through a bad flare, but as a long-term approach, rest by itself tends to make things worse, not better. And I say that to a lot of patients and it takes a moment to land, but it's true. Okay, this is the one I promised you at the start, and I want you to really stay with me here, because this one genuinely reshapes how you need to think about knee pain. I have patients whose x-rays show bone on bone, meaning the cartilage has thinned so much that the bones are almost touching. And those people are actually getting on with their lives pretty well and are not on a lot of pain medication. And then I have patients with only mild or moderate changes on their imaging who are in significant and sometimes debilitating pain. And for a long time, we didn't have a clean explanation for why that gap existed. Now we do. Pain is not just a signal that travels from the joint up to your brain and gets reported at the same volume it left. Pain gets processed by the nervous system, and the nervous system can become sensitized. The term is central sensitization. What it means is that when someone has been in pain for a long time, and chronic knee pain absolutely qualifies, the nervous system can start amplifying those pain signals. And a helpful way to think about it is that someone has turned up the volume dial on the pain processing center and left it up. So the joint is sending a certain signal, and the nervous system is broadcasting it louder than it should be. Louder than the structural picture would predict. That is why two people with similar x-rays can have completely different lives in terms of pain. The imaging tells us about the structure. It tells us almost nothing about what that person's nervous system is doing with those signals. And this matters enormously, because treating the knee in isolation, just the injection, just waiting for the surgery number, misses a big part of what is actually generating the pain experience. Sleep quality, stress levels, anxiety and depression, how sedentary someone is, whether they feel supported or isolated in their life. All of those things shape how sensitized the nervous system is, and therefore how much pain comes through from the same joint. And I want to be really clear here. This is not me saying the pain is in your head. It is absolutely not in your head. It is a real physiological process. But the physiology is happening partly in the joint and partly in the nervous system, and we cannot just look at one and ignore the other. Fifth point is knowing when knee pain has gone past what general management can handle, and you need to see a specialist, a rheumatologist or an orthopedic doctor, and get a proper evaluation. So here are some things to watch for. If your knee is genuinely swollen, visibly puffy, warm to the touch, with fluid you can actually feel shifting around in there, that needs to be looked at. Swelling in the knee can come from OA, sure, but it can also come from gout, or pseudo-gout, or rheumatoid arthritis, or other inflammatory conditions. And the treatment for those is very different, and getting it wrong matters. If the pain is waking you up at night, that's a flag. If it's primarily in one knee and getting progressively worse over weeks, rather than just fluctuating up and down, that's a flag. If you have a lot of pain at rest and not only with activity, and if you have anything else showing up alongside the knee pain, fatigue you can't explain, pain in other joints, a rash, a fever, those are signals that something beyond straightforward OA may be happening. And more broadly, if you have been living with knee pain for months, and it is affecting your quality of life, and the only explanation you've received is that you're getting older, trust your instinct that there is more to the story. Go back. Push for a proper workup. You should get an actual answer. So let me bring all of this together. Your knee pain was never just about getting older, and it never will be. It's about inflammation happening locally in that joint and running systemically through the body at the same time. And it's about whether the muscles around the knee are strong enough to actually do their job. And it's about what adipose tissue is doing metabolically and hormonally. And it's about the nervous system and how sensitized it has become over time. And all of those things are being shaped by sleep and stress and movement and diet and the people around you. And that means that the tools available to you are not just injections and a surgery waitlist. An anti-inflammatory diet, one that is high in vegetables and omega-3s and whole foods, and low in processed food and sugar, that matters for your knee more than most people get told. Consistent movement, the kind that keeps those muscles strong and keeps the joint nourished without pushing into a flare, that matters. And the research on it is really quite compelling. Deep restorative sleep, and I mean actually restorative, because we know that poor sleep turns up the sensitivity of the pain processing system that matters more than almost anything, and it is probably the most underrated lever in this whole conversation. Stress management, because cortisol and the physiological stress response are directly tied to the inflammatory process. And the relationships in your life, the ones that bring you up rather than drain you, because those actually influence your body systems in measurable ways that the research is continuing to map out. Your knee and your immune system and your nervous system and your sleep and your stress and your daily life are not separate problems. They are the same problem. And understanding that connection, really understanding it, is where getting better actually starts. If this video helped you think about your knee pain differently, please hit like. Share it with anyone you know who has been brushed off with just your age, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. We'll see you then.